Adamo, do you have any pet peeves? Because, I have one big pet peeve, and it happened before I headed onto this show. I go, and we were in conversation here. I went to a driving range, or so I thought was going to go to a driving range. I go up there, and I don't know, I'm not even going to throw the name out because it's just not important, but I'm going there. I'm walking, I got all my stuff together, and the driving range is closed. It is closed. 20-minute drive for nothing. No sign. That was the big one for me. No sign at the front of the driving range or the front of the golf course saying, oh, we're closed, we're cutting grass, whatever. First of all, what are you doing cutting grass at 6:30 at night? Why can't you do that before? Why can't you do that after the course closes? I don't get it. My father, I went with him. He wanted to tag along. He didn't get it. He was fuming because he had to waste that money on gas. It's a whole sort of realm. That's my biggest pet peeve. Wasting time going to something that you want to go to and you just can't even get it done because nobody put a sign on the lawn or something as simple as that. Who's cutting grass at this time? This is prime business hours. I had to let it out. I had a bit of a vent to go on here, but Donald, man, pet peeves. You probably got a billion pet peeves. I got a billion pet peeves of my own. But let's listen before we get into our Leafs line talk for this special episode of Leafs Line Podcast.
Oh shoot, that's kind of putting me on the spot. I was thinking about your driving range story, and I actually texted my buddy yesterday. I was like, "Oh, you want to go to the driving range tomorrow?" As in today, and then he's like, "Yeah, sure," and we just never followed up. I completely forgot. No, it was on me too. We just both forgot. It was just kind of thrown out there. Happens. Yeah, I was looking at my golf set and just instinctively, but yeah, pet peeves. People that can't get theirs right, like there. And I know
as an editor, it went that hits.
That. Yeah, or like yours and yours or your. Yeah, that gets to me. Like if you're an adult and still can't do that, like it's not funny.
Yeah, it's through text too. It's always through text, and that's a judgment thing. If someone's sending you a first text and you're getting the theirs messed up or the yours, or as simple, I find the twos. You know how it's 2 with one O and 2 with 2. If you're messing that one up too, it's a red flag. It leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Does it for you as well? But we're going to be talking about some hockey today. First thing we haven't done in quite some time. I'll give you guys an update for the viewers at home of the Leafs Line Podcast, the status here and there. Evan Davis, he's settling down in Cali. He is there. He is working. He's doing whatever Cali guys do. And Jared, he is going to be gone for the rest of the summer. He's not going to be watching this. He's got no service. He's in Timbuk nowhere. He told me the name a bunch of times of his camp where he's counseling. I cannot repeat that for you. It's a weird name. It's a long name. It's a long distance away. So he won't be joining us for quite some time. But hey, it's me and you, man. Me and you for the first time in the history of the Leafs Line Podcast. We don't got an episode here on this show, but we will be talking about is the only Leafs news that's sort of been relevant over the last couple of months. Since the Giordano signing, we got the Timothy Liljgren signing, and I do believe that those two signings somewhat had an effect on each other. I think it opened some books for the Maple Leafs to explore, but nonetheless, let's get right into it, Adamo. From the pet peeves to the Liljgrens, who I don't know if he'll be a pet peeve for much longer. We'll talk about it right now. So 2 years he signs at $2.8 million, 1.4 AAV. And I just found this out today. I was digging a little bit around him, and you touched upon him a while ago in one of our Leafs Line episodes, the analytical darling that he is, and the analytical darling that doesn't get enough credit. Did you know this though? He finished 11th in Calder votes.
Good.
Yeah. He finished 11th. I did not expect that at all. I didn't expect him to even be in the conversation. Well, he was there. He got a couple third place votes. I think it was like 2 fourth place votes, fifth place votes. But hey, he's on the list. He's on the radar. He's getting votes. And again, like I said before, the underlying numbers, I know he only finished with like 23 points. He's not a really big point getter. But man, those underlying numbers that I cannot for the life of me explain whatsoever. I'm hoping you can maybe shine a light to them. I probably don't have them in front of you, but it shows that he's one of the top defenders in the league right now. I just want to ask you, man, what are your thoughts on his season? We saw what he got yesterday, the $2.8 million. Is it a proper assessment? And is it a proper assessment for the money and the season that he just had and even previously? Is it a proper match for what he's getting? Is the value there? Because I thought he did really well when Giordano stepped in. I thought he really blossomed, and at least I've been watering him for about 5 years since he came into the league in 2017 when he got drafted and such. They were really holding on to him. He was a high player that they valued, and I think we saw a lot of it come to fruition this year, what the upside was to his game. So what were your thoughts on the deal? How does it sort of match with what he put together this past season, and how big a role did Giordano play? Because he, I think, really did play a solid impact on what not only he might have got, because he did take that hometown discount or whatever you want to call that Dubas masterclass. I think it was 800,000 AAV.
Yeah.
He took that. I think that might have opened the gates for some of the younger guys like Sandin, who hasn't had a contract, and Liljgren, who just got his, to maybe maximize their spendings here, fill their pockets. So, what are your thoughts on the deal, man? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. It's a really good deal. I'll start with that. Like, I'm a big fan of Timothy Liljgren. I know in the past, guilty as charged, I was one of the, you know, I never thought he was going to make it. You know, you watch the scan the AHL and, well, the very limited AHL games I got to, but I got to see him quite a bit, and he looked better than everyone, but he didn't look dominant, I guess. And I really wasn't sure how that was going to translate, but boy, was I wrong in both assessments, because he's a legit NHL defenseman. He should play, barring injury, 82 games next season, whether that's beside Giordano, whether that's beside Morgan Riley, whether that's beside whoever the heck you want to throw on his left, Jake Muzzin, if he's still here, and I'm sure we'll touch on that. I know he put up, what did you say, 20, 23 points?
I think it was around 23 points, 25 points. Regardless, he's in that range. It doesn't mean much.
I do not care the amount of points a defenseman puts up. Unless your sole purpose is to put up points as a defenseman, I do not care. So what he brought was an elite puck mover. I think he was the second best puck moving defenseman behind Morgan Riley this season. I could even argue he was first. Like, he was that good at making stretch passes. He had the confidence to go skate through the neutral zone through his own, which is extremely undervalued, I think, in the NHL. When you have guys like, I guess on forward, Ilya Mikheyev and Pierre Engvall, they're able to do it. When you have a defenseman that can do it consistently too, is nice to have, especially when you have Mark Giordano on his back. So, and the big thing, he's right-handed.
Yeah,
we ignore that. That is really big, that he's a righty. And you got him for, like, honestly, if he wanted long term, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with giving him long term, but if he wanted long term, say 5 years, you're probably looking at a guy getting at least 4.5, maybe. Right. So.
Yeah. And that's kind of where my emotions sit as well. The term was the big question mark for me. I love this deal personally. Like, the value absolutely matches his play. The value absolutely matches what the years are going to be getting from him. It's a bridge deal, right? And bridge deals are meant to, you'll get through these couple years, and then the team is probably, or most likely in that situation, going to sign you for much bigger, maybe when they got the financial stability to do so, or you move on as a UFA and you get more money elsewhere. And I think that's the purpose of the bridge deal. I'm hoping for the Maple Leafs, because I was really skeptical on why he didn't get maybe 4 years, 5 years. I wasn't going to go the 6 or 7, because I think that's way too down the road. Yeah. But what was holding them back from the 4 and the 5? I think it was, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but they didn't really have the money to give him that much. You said it for yourself. They're going to have to give him, and I agree with you, 4 mil, 5 mil per year. Yeah. If they were going to give him those extra years. They don't got that. And I mean, you make your bed, you're going to sleep in it, right? You sign all your players for big money. I even think the Mrazek one is one of those contracts where it probably held them back from keeping Liljegren for another. You can name so many contracts. The Jake Muzzin one that we're probably going to touch upon later down the road in this show. But like, what were your thoughts on the term? Should it have been longer? Are you really happy that it's going to be a bridge deal? And is it just the financials that are really holding it back from him going the distance and getting that 4th or 5th? That was where I was at. I was really hoping he got more term, because I think his best years are right in front of him. I think he is yet to play his best season. I think he's going to be chasing that. And if the Leafs continuously develop him as they have been throughout his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think it's just going to be even better and even better. And he's going to turn into a top 4 defender easily. I think he's going to knock that one out of the park. I think he already is on the cusp of becoming a top 4 defender. We can maybe see him take that step this next season. So what were your thoughts on the other years that he could have gotten, or was this the proper assessment and maybe only Dubas had to make? That's all he had to work with.
Oh, I think Dubas is right on this one. I think I agree with Dubas, where I don't think I would have went long term with him, even if I had the cap stability to do it. And that's purely because you have a young NHL defenseman that he wasn't a lock in the lineup this year. No. It's really hard to justify giving your 7th defenseman, he was the 7th defenseman in the playoffs. Like, sorry to interrupt, but he only played
he played game 1,
Twice.
made a mistake in game 2.
Yeah.
Brendan Hagel cuts through him like butter and scores a beauty goal, and boom, he's gone. He doesn't play the rest of the series. Justin Hall goes in. You can argue if he stepped up big, stepped up low, but he was in there, and Liljgren was on the bench watching. So that's also probably one that plays a factor as well.
Yeah.
Go on. I'm sorry.
No. And like you like hit on my point. It was he didn't play in the play. Like the coach didn't trust him, and that's not my opinion. I think it was the wrong call to take Timothy Liljgren out, but it happened, and it's really hard to justify going long term because he's going to hit. Let's say he makes 4.5 over 5 years. We'll see even 4 for shits. We'll say 4 million 5 years. Is Timothy Liljgren a $4 million player next year? I don't know. And when your cup window is tiny, your cup window is I hate to say it, Leaf fans, it's maybe 3 years.
I agree with that statement too.
Matthews off the books, Marner off the books, Tavares off the books, Nylander off the books. Riley, you sign long term, which I'd argue shortens your cap window because Morgan Riley in 5 years is not going to be worth 7.5. So your time is now, and I think finding cheap deals gives you more cap space for next season. Like I'm looking at this deal for next season because he's going to be an impactful player. He's worth more than 1.4 right now. I'd say based off the season he just had and off of like his previous experience. I'd say his market value is probably 3.5. I wouldn't say 4.5, but still a very good player that you just got for 1.4 million. And I like this play because I've always been high on your team is so good. It's time to go for it. And him signing for 1.4, regardless of the term, gives you that flexibility to go and make moves.
Right. And I mean, it's looking like, and I don't know if this is just because the regular season just ended 3 days ago kind of thing, but they've kept their cards quite close to them. They haven't really shown what they want to go for. I haven't heard much information on what they're rumored on. And this probably could just be, maybe I'm just new to it and haven't really looked into it this deep, but is it just because the season just ended? Is that why I'm not hearing a lot of Leafs news? This was the biggest Leafs news we've heard since they just got knocked out of the playoffs and re-signed Mark Giordano. Like, are they trying to, is this like a hint, a foreshadowing that they want to keep their guys with as low amount of money as possible, bring in as much of those RFAs? I know they got Engvall, who's also an RFA, Kasha. And then the big one for me, the biggest one of them all is his Swedish partner, Rasmus Sandin, who's still going to need a contract as well. I'm sure he's going to get one in the upcoming days. Is it sort of a reflection on Dubas wants to get all this stuff out of the way before he goes and hunts down what I think is going to be something like a Michael Bunting situation where you go really cheap and have to hit on it? You're going to want to get those bargain deals because, listen, they're pinching pennies right now. So is it a foreshadowing of the offseason to come where they're going to run it back with the same team and by opening night, it's going to be a similar roster intact? Or is this just the domino that had to fall until you can unleash all out, going out to get whoever you want by any means necessary and bargaining which way you can? Because Kyle Dubas, we've seen him go 2 different styles. We've seen him spend big and go home, and we've seen him keep a little close and try to work it out on the cheaper route. What is this deal, if anything? Does it foreshadow to what he's going to be making now that the off season, I think this is called GM season now, starts to come into play, starts to become a factor?
So you want to know what I think Sandin's going to get, or?
Oh, you could even hint to that because that's even a bigger question too. He's going to be an RFA. This contract obviously plays a role in what he's going to get. Like I'm just speaking maybe in general that off season, what's it going to look like for the Leafs? Because I don't know if hesitant's the right word, but they haven't jumped as much as I would have liked to see a team that hasn't won a first round in so long jump and leap for some players, maybe get into some information on some players. Like they've re-signed Giordano and Liljgren. This could just be because the season ended. And
I think that's
still fresh. But that's probably it. But if that's the reason, what is Sandin's contract going to look like? Because I think that's the biggest fish for them to fry this offseason because he's one of their better young defensemen. He's probably their best young defenseman that has to come back. I think is a must to come back. I know there's been some teams that have been kicking tires on him as well. I think the Canucks were a team, if I'm not mistaken. I was listening to that on the radio a couple of days ago. So teams are looking out for him. They've been shopping Sandin. Looks like Dubas wants to keep him, but for how much? And is this deal sort of shine a light on what he's going to be getting?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with Sandin. Yeah. He's not going anywhere, guys. No. Like, you think Kyle Dubas is going to trade a roster player that is he drafted him. He played on the Sioux Greyhounds. He's like I said, he's young and he's good. He's not trading him. I think his contract comes in similar to the Liljgren one, in all honesty, probably, if I had to make a guess, 1.2 million over 2 years.
I'd say cheaper too. I would agree. Just a
probably
smidge cheaper.
Probably just a bit cheaper because of the handedness, and he played less games this season, and he's probably going to play less games than Liljgren. Which I don't agree with, but like it seems like they're going to have a revolving door at 7D, and Sandin's going to be one of them. So but in terms of the offseason overall, I guess I'll tell you what I think is going to happen and then what I think should happen, because you look at the Colorado Avalanche, and I saw someone put out a tweet. They said the Colorado Avalanche are a product of sticking with the good team that you've built and just hoping they break through. And while that is partially true, the Colorado Avalanche made big moves. The Toronto Maple Leafs need to make big moves. Big moves do not mean they need to trade away a core four. They mean it's time to trade someone in. It's time to the Islanders gave the Coyotes Devon Toews for 2 second-round picks. You're telling me we can't go fleece a stupid team for that? You're telling me we can't go bring in another big player? Because heads up, guys are taking discounts to be here. Mark Giordano did not need to take $800,000.
No chance.
He pissed away money. He quite literally said, I could make $1 million, but instead I'm going to make $800,000 because I want to see them win. Like, where are you going to find that? Where are you going to find Michael Bunting? I'm not going to say he took a discount because he realistically probably was worth $900K at the time. But to take a second year?
Yeah, that was the big one for me. The second year was the huge
thing. Second year. Like, it's time you use the ability to, have these guys taking discounts and bring in someone big. Go bring in a JT Miller. Give up Kerfoot. Sure. Kerfoot, I think, is probably as good as gone. Who are we kidding? If they want to make a move, because some cap space is going to have to go out and the roster players obviously going to have to go back. So it's going to be Kerfoot. I've said it before. I'm cool if they start moving these prospects. Topi Niemela isn't playing for the Leafs next season.
No.
More than likely not. Matthew Knies.
I hope not, for the sake of the team. Yeah. That means they're in some deep turmoil.
Yeah.
Pump the brakes on that guy.
Matthew Knies, again, a guy that I'd hate to give up.
Yeah,
I hate to give up, guys. I'm very high. He's very good. Very good.
Notre Dame boy too?
No. Minnesota Golden Gopher. That's Alex Steves. Alex Steves is the Notre Dame guy. Matthew Knies, like, as much as I'd hate to say it, and Jared would be giving me a very dirty look right now if he was here, but he's not. So, I'm not saying trade him, but if the package is there and a JT Miller can go win you a Stanley Cup, a Philip Forsberg can go win you a Stanley Cup, who cares? A very good player can go help you win a Stanley Cup this year. Go do it. Stop being so conservative where, we need these picks. Look what you did to Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson's value is through the roof right now. And now I don't think Nick Robertson's fetching you. Nick Robertson's a throw-in nowadays. Yep. He's not because he hasn't proven shit.
He hasn't gotten really the opportunity to go in and prove his play.
He's been injured. Yep. He has proven that he's not good enough to play in the top six, but his play style doesn't match the bottom six. So what do you do with him with a contending team? Injury prone. It sucks because he probably will end up being a good NHL player. But in Toronto, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Why not go look at moving him for a guy that can help? And this was my point. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to look at a very similar offseason to last year. We're probably going to sign guys that you've never heard of, and they'll end up being pretty good. Dubas is probably going to make a big fish signing. Probably a winger for the second, third line, just another Ilya Mikheyev level player that maybe he hits, maybe he flops, but I don't know. I don't see the Leafs doing anything big, and that's just their track record.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we haven't even gotten to goalie situation yet. That's how much. I'm
God.
not even going to get to it because
I
that's a
forgot about that.
conversation that is entirety of an episode. You can go on an hour trying to shop goaltenders, who fits here, who fits there. And I mean, I'm reading some of the articles that come out and some of the news from Jack Campbell's camp and where he's at with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's pathetic a little bit. Just see, like, how not close at all they are on reaching anything. I know they're very far apart. I heard he's going to probably the Devils. Maybe that's a big.
That's what I heard too. That's what I heard too.
For him. And quite frankly, man, he ain't a winning goaltender. So I would I don't have too many feelings if he's going to get the boot out of Toronto. But we're not talking about Jack Campbell. We're talking about Timothy Liljgren here. And I mean, the reason why Jack Campbell's name is brought in and all these other guys that you brought in, how Dubas is going to make some moves, if he's going to make some moves, who's going to bring in, who's going out, whatever. It's because those are the dominoes that are going to have to fall from this one contract, then the next contract, then the next contract. They're all going to connect together because of how tight that salary is. You only got $5.7 million. And that's after the contract was signed. So you have $5.7 million. It's going to be give or take who you're going to go for. You have to be strategic. And Kyle Dubas has done this before, and he's hit on a couple players once before. And I mean, I don't know. Do we have anything else to get into, Timothy Liljgren? We talked about the contract. We talked about if it was a good fit for the Maple Leafs. We talked about the length and the term where he could have gone. I really liked your point where the Leafs aren't going to be winning in 4 or 5 or 6 years. Well, I hope they do go winning.
Yeah.
Their window is so slim right now. And
with this core, I should say.
There we go. That's the better disclaimer. With this core that Kyle Dubas is so reluctant to move around or shift around or whatever you want to call that. The window is quite small. 2-3 years max. If you're going for that probably comes with maybe a couple round victories in those other 2 years. What happens going forward in these next 2 years will dictate how big the window opens and closes. You can still open the window, man. We've seen teams stretch out the window. They're every year. It seems as though they're closing and closing. So yeah, if you look at it that way, and I think that is a good way of looking at it, Timothy Liljgren gets the bridge deal because we don't know where the team is going to be at, both morale, both player wise, personnel wise, is going to be. Kyle Dubas might not even be the GM and handing out the next contract to Timothy Liljgren if he were to want another contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So yeah, that's a good way to looking at it, man. We don't know where this team is at, but we do know this is the first domino to fall. One thing I want to ask, though, I think it just has to be worth noting, and I hate to go back to it, but Mark Giordano, he had people don't really give him enough credit to what kind of effect he had on Timothy Liljgren. I want to get your thoughts. What were your thoughts from before? I think it was March 9th that Giordano came to Toronto. What were your thoughts on Liljgren before he had that guy beside him? And then right after that guy came, inserted himself into the lineup, you test out that pairing, it works to perfection, and that's your pairing heading into the playoffs down the stretch, and probably going to be the pairing opening night as well, I'd imagine. So what are your thoughts from what was and what is going to be Timothy Liljgren with Giordano? Because it's just a fascinating story to see how much a player can change from one veteran guy coming in. We all thought it was going to be a Brody Giordano pairing. No, sir. This one worked just as good, if not better. So what are your thoughts on before, then, and after? Because it's really interesting looking at the before and after picks of Timothy Liljgren. That's the reason why he got this money after all, right?
You're 100% right on that. I'm not going to sit here and act like, Mark Giordano didn't completely affect Timothy Liljgren's play, because he did. He was really good, and he was really good because of Mark Giordano. But I don't think that's the only reason. You have to be talented.
It wouldn't be the be-all, end-all.
This isn't a Justin Hall situation. Justin Hall is what he is. Justin Hall isn't getting any better. Justin Hall needs to be babysat. Timothy Liljgren is probably going to be better than Mark Giordano, if he isn't already, by the end of this contract. So, to say this is a Justin Hall deal, and I don't think anyone is, but I think that's kind of what you're getting at, where it's this guy's kind of babysitting him. And while to an extent he is,
I always going to turn into that. I don't think that over the 2 years it's going to be Giordano always got to be around his shoulder. And if he moves down, up and down the lineup, he's not going to know what to do with the puck. I think that this guy, if anything, he's going to be skyrocketing up the lineup. He's not going to need Giordano. It's going to be like, the bird's leaving the nest and he's going to go flourish with everybody else. I think he can probably play on that first pairing in Riley. 2 years at that end of that second year. And if he gets another year or two after that, he will be the top pairing. He's the future in Toronto, I think. I don't know. Maybe with the injury history, you might want to pump the brakes on Sandin just a bit, but I think Timothy Liljgren's right there. And I don't know if maybe my point came across wrong. It's not that Giordano was the be all end all. This guy got his money strictly because Gio was put beside him and he flourished right after that. He got put on the map, I think, from Gio. Gio helped him find his way, find his groove. I think he gave him the map to find what he has to offer. Mm-hmm. And I think Liljgren is more than experienced. We've seen him when he's developed in the Marlies and a little bit in his time in Toronto without Giordano, that he is capable of being independent. That's what you want from your young guy, to turn into an independent guy, to turn into a superstar guy or a star guy. And that is your guy. So I think, Giordano was a big piece that helped him out. Do you want to add anything else in that comment? Because he was a big help.
I definitely can, because even before the signing, he was still like an analytical darling. He was still this good player, because these analytics, as much as they are team reflectant, they're like, there are some stats and private numbers that the dork like me pays for, but they're isolated, meaning they're meant to track how good you are when you're on your own versus when you're not with Giordano. And his numbers are still very solid because he's still a very solid player. Like I said, he's one of the best puck movers. He's easily our best right-handed puck moving defenseman since, I'll say he's probably better than Tyson Barrie. Toronto Tyson Barrie, not Colorado Tyson Barrie. That Toronto Tyson Barrie was woeful. And that's the crazy part. I know everyone says it, but it's true. Timothy Liljgren was drafted as an offensive defenseman, and now I think he's
more of a two-way.
I think he's more of a two-way guy. Like, if I think of him, I don't see his offense is 100 times better than his defense, nor do I see his defense better than his offense. There were times where, as any young defenseman,
that's a young thing, man. That everyone's gonna pick on those little plays. I think game 2 was that one play that everyone's really jumping on him for. Mm-hmm. He's a young kid. There's a reason why he's got the bridge deal and they didn't go lock him up for too long. He's a young guy. He still has to come out of his shell. I don't look into those young little mistakes too much, because Sandin had those. Riley, if you remember way back when, he had those mistakes too. The one guy who probably doesn't have them, and when Cale Makar, and he just won the MVP of the playoffs. Well, he never really had those young mistakes, and I'm not comparing Liljgren to Cale Makar or anything. He's on his own level, but young mistakes happen to the best of them. Mm-hmm. Cale Makar, sure, he's an exception, but don't jump on Liljgren for the young mistakes, because they're just there. And they're going to probably happen next year too, man.
Exactly. If you remember last year, remember Rasmus Sandin? Remember that it was like game 3, I think, where Sandin was unplayable. I remember Keith shortened the bench, if I'm not mistaken, to 5 defensemen.
I remember that.
Stopped playing Sandin. I think they still won the game, I think, but God, I don't remember. But I do remember I think he turned over the puck like twice, and it led to 2 goals. Oh, he was just getting beaten, but like, you learn from those. And like, there were times, especially like I said, last season, Timothy Liljgren played 10 games, and it was, oh boy, this guy cannot play in the playoffs, because he's like a less good Jake Gardiner with the mistakes he was making. But you hit it. Young defensemen are going to do that. Young players are going to do that. And you got to learn somehow, right? You can't just stash this guy with the Marlies and expect him to become very good. And that's why, again, with Nick Robertson, like, we get it. He can score in the AHL. When is it going to hit the NHL? And this isn't about Nick Robertson, but that's just an aside. I guess I don't have much else to add on Timothy Liljgren. It's a good signing. It's a great sign. I'd say it's a great signing. And it's time for Dubas to take advantage of these cheap deals that he has.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned hometown discounts, and obviously Liljgren's not from Toronto. He didn't take a hometown discount, but a lot of players have in the past taken a hometown discount to play in Toronto. We just saw one leave from Jason Spezza. We saw Mark Giordano, who've been discussing thoroughly throughout this show, take one. The Leafs,
Tavares took one.
Tavares took one very slightly. He was supposed to go to San Jose, man. They were offering him the big bag, and he did not chase it whatsoever. He came to Toronto. I think the Leafs are the only team that can offer a hometown discount that's going to say, hey, you can, that actually has an effect on the player. Like, he's going to say, okay, I'm actually considering this. It's just the passion of the city, man. And it's strange to say it, because the teams that aren't taking the hometown discounts, or not giving those out, rather, the teams that are going farther in the playoffs, man, it's weird. It's a weird complex in the city of Toronto. I know Sammy, friend of DSN, is going to be talking about the city of Toronto and how their success in the hometown and all those vibes sort of come together. But you want to add on to that?
Oh my God, yeah, on the hometown discounts, it's so crazy because like it's the one thing.
It makes it more frustrating too.
Yeah, you think these players all they care about is money, and like they do, but it's not all they care about. Okay, like if you were an NHL player, would you? I don't know about you. I probably would take a hometown discount to come and play in Toronto, just because. And my dad says it all the time. Could you imagine if you were the player on the Leafs Stanley Cup ring? Could you imagine your name was in the Stanley Cup with a Toronto Maple Leaf title above it? You go down in history. You get the keys to the city forever.
Yeah.
You are never forgotten. You are a legend in the biggest hockey market in the world.
That's the beauty of playing in such a historic city that has not had the success. That is a diehard hockey city, rather, not a town. But there's so many towns around it that bleed blue. So that's just a testament to why guys like to stay. Maybe that's going to be foreshadowing into what Kyle Dubas maybe wants to use that as leverage, because that's something that he has over all the rest of the NHL teams. He has that thing where we are very passionate. We are very close, and at least in his mind, we are very close, and we want to maximize the potential here. So I think that's what he's going to be saying to a lot of his guys. He's already said it to Timothy Liljgren, not the hometown stuff, but that he wants to maximize his potential and that he is the future of this team. And lo and behold, he gets a great deal that works out for both parties. I don't know, maybe I think $1 million too much would have been a little bit more criticism on his part and the Leafs part, but I think this was the perfect balance. I think we both agree on this one here, Dom, and I think we're just going to agree here to wrap it up. That does it for the Timothy Liljgren talk. Again, I'm your host, Mary Russo, Dom Rimoli, brought to you here by dynastysportsnetwork.ca. If you want to go check it out, it's got a bunch of Adamo already wrote an article on the Leafs offseason. Liljgren already mentioned it numerously, so you can cross that one off his list. There's a lot of other players that still remain on that list. The Jake Muzzin future with him and all his injuries surrounding this player, and we didn't get to discuss him. I'm not going to get into him, but he's a player that's still in the melting pot here of the Toronto Maple Leafs. A bunch of other guys, their prospects, the draft is coming up. How are they going to go approach that? There's a lot of things brewing in Leafland. The offseason is here. We finally got things to talk about, and we're going to have a Leafs offseason episode coming out rather shortly, I think. We're going to get into that because that's a whole fun episode to talk about. So many angles you can go towards, and it's going to be opening some other wounds that I was hoping to forget with a bunch of rounds of golf and a bunch of different sports watching over the summer, but we're going to be revisiting the Toronto Maple Leafs like we did today. But that is it for this episode. Timothy Liljgren has been discussed. We have done it, and we are going to sign it off. So I'll take care, everyone, and we'll meet back for probably an episode for NHL talk, Leafs talk, whatever it may be. We will be back. Take care.